Hi, me again. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of talk about kind of my inspirations and things like that. Like many writers, I'm also a big reader. It was something that my mother instilled in me at a very, very young age. Maybe partly because my mum suffered from agoraphobia and wanted me to have a hobby that would keep me indoors. That love has grown. A lot of people, as they get older, find they stop reading. I've never ever stopped reading, and my biggest regret is unfortunately a couple of years ago when I had what is known as the Great Escape, leaving a particularly bad relationship. I had to leave a lot of my things behind, and I built up quite a big collection of books, and a lot of them I had to leave behind, and that's been one of my biggest regrets, losing all these books. Slowly, bit by bit, I'm buying them again and rediscovering them. Terrible habit I have is maybe potentially not rereading stuff. So now, as I'm buying the books again, I'm rereading them and enjoying them all over again. As a kind of horror writer, it probably comes no surprise as predominantly most of my books are related to horror. My favourite authors are Stephen King, James Herbert, Dean Koontz, and Shawn Hudson. Now, I was lucky enough last year to meet Shawn Hudson at HorrorCon. He's a wonderful man. He spent a good 10-15 minutes talking to me. It seemed quite a shame that at these sort of events, the actors and actresses associated with horrors were having big queues, but the horror writers, there was hardly anybody there. But for me, that worked well because that meant I got time to speak to him, talk to him about his work, how he works, why he works, and he signed a book, and I have a photograph of myself with him, and it was just an amazing experience for somebody that unfortunately now suffers from a lot of anxiety. Going to the event took a lot to make me go, and just for that moment alone, it was well worth it. So, as I'm sat here now, I can see what I've managed to save of my book collection at the moment. It is a hodgepodge of stuff. I can see things like I do have L. Ron Hubbard's book on Scientology, which might seem a little bit strange for a pagan to have. I think, like a lot of people, I'm intrigued by Scientology, how it's become so popular. And the book itself, A New Slant on Scientology, doesn't talk about aliens at all. It is kind of like rules to live by, and a lot of them are common sense, be kind, essentially. It's a whole book on being, if you want to be treated well, you treat other people well, look after your neighbours, look after, the earth and things like that. So it's not as kind of sensationalized as maybe people might accept. Like I said, I've got Dean Koontz books. My favourite lot of Dean Koontz books is the Odd Thomas series. As I've mentioned, I write under the name Stormy. I first started writing under the name Stormy Llewellyn, which is a character from Odd Thomas. And then I thought there might be some copyright issues if I continued to write under that name. So I just dropped it to Stormy. I love that character. And for those of you that haven't read the books, I won't give too much away. But she is all that I wanted to be. Hence why I lived my life as that character through the poetry. And I have my Odd Thomas now. Maybe not particularly as odd as Odd Thomas, but he still loves me the way that Odd Thomas loved Stormy, and that's all that makes me happy. Dean Koontz does suffer from a habit of repetition. Sometimes you feel like you're reading a book and you're going, I'm sure I've read this before. Also, there's a sense of you have to kind of put your disbelief really on hold for some of his books. Demon Seed being the classic example. Now, I quite like the concept of Demon Seed. in the sense that it's written from the computer's point of view. It's just, I'm not sure the concept as a whole works. And they did make a terrible film of it as well in the 70s. Do not watch the film. But if you want a really good laugh, watch the film. But don't watch it as something serious. And like I said, I was lucky enough to meet Shawn Hudson. And I love his books. They are brutal. I love the fact that often the books end with nobody surviving. Or one or two people surviving. So often you know there's not going to be any follow-ups. Shawn Hudson's book has one of my favourite death scenes now. I can't remember if it's which one it is. It's one of the slugs books, because it's one of the slugs that causes the death. So the slugs had two ways of killing you. They would either enter your orifices, go to your brain and kill you, or they would take over your body briefly and cause you to kill people. In one scene, the slug enters a couple engaging in sex through the man's arsehole, to be blunt. He controls the man, who gets a vibrator, starts making his partner, I can't remember if it's wife or not, but the person that he's having sex with, to orally just to be oral with the vibrator. And basically he pushes it until he strangles her with the vibrator. He actually, I think if I remember rightly, actually pierces her neck with the vibrator, which I think is an amazingly unique way to die. Also, my other favourite book is Warhol's Prophecy, which talks about the 5 minutes of fame, 15 minutes of fame, subscribed by Andy Warhol. It also looks at our obsession with serial killers, something that I am also guilty of. I have several true crime novels, and I'm also a sucker for, those crime channels. Again, without giving too much away, Warhol's Prophecy has one of the best twists at the end as well. Well worth the read, especially with those books that you think you know what the outcome's going to be. Believe me, you don't. And of course, most people have some sort of love-hate relationship with Stephen King. Now, I have read most of his novels, and I would read anything that he brings out. Does that necessarily make him a good author? Maybe not. Like music, sometimes people buy the albums because it's a band they once loved, and even though they know the band is no longer their best anymore, they keep buying the albums, which then keeps that false perception that they're still doing well, and they keep producing shit albums. It's a bit like that with Stephen King, although he has picked up again. I love a lot of his early work. You're looking at your Carrie, your Shining, Christine. His really, really early work. Then, I suppose, fame hits. And he just produces novel after novel after novel. And some of them are not the best. He seems to get to a point where he's bored of the novel. And he just goes, ba 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 ba, and this is the end. And there's no thought process of the end. It is a classic example of that. One of the most infuriating books I think ever written. And I know the TV series gets slammed a lot, or the TV movie gets slammed a lot because of the ending. But that was the book. Looking forward to the new It film that's coming out. Especially if you're interested to see how they deal with the ending. I like his short stories because they are concise, they get to the point, and they're really, really interesting. The Mist, Secret Window, even ones like The Langolleys have interesting concepts to them and work well as novels. Apart from The Mist, with those examples that I've just given, they do not always adapt well. Then you've got films like books like The Dreamcatcher, which is just so bizarre. And then he seems to pick up again. The Cell is one of the best books I've read for a long time. It is such a great idea of our obsession with technology and how easy it could be, if it was possible, to use that against us. Another book I enjoyed, and I've got to try and find it because I can never remember the actual year, 11/22/63, is a time travelling novel. What I like about this is it's very well written. It is a great concept and something I think a lot of us would want to do if we had the capability to time travel, to save JFK, because he was seen as a bringer of new light, new hope. So for his life to be cut so tragically short, it seemed like hope had died that day. It looks at the concept of what might have happened if JFK survived. And again, I'm not going to go into details. It is well worth the read. Now, I know, again, like a lot of Stephen King's work, there is a mini-series on this. I have it on the hard drive. I still haven't got round to watching it yet, so I don't know if that's any good. I think that'll be... I'll probably go on about other books, maybe even review specific books, but just to kind of give you a general idea of the books I like. And again, as always, if you want to say anything, add anything, maybe even tell me what your favourite books are, add them to the comments. I look forward to reading them.